Well, Washington County isn't the only court system occasionally putting domestic violence victims in jail.
And community watchdog Nate Morabito continues to investigate and found out the severe but rare punishment is taking place in Sullivan and Greene counties too.
Remember, we found more than a dozen cases over the last year in Washington County where victims of domestic violence disobeyed a subpoena to appear in court and went to jail as a result. Advocates say the courts shouldn't force victims to testify, but prosecutors say they can't convict the abusers without victims' help. And police have a stake in this too. Domestic violence calls are among the most dangerous for officers to respond to. All of these women, along with one man, weren't the only domestic violence victims to spend time in jail.
We have at times found them in contempt.
At the Greene County Courthouse,
it's very rare that they don't show up, thankfully.
Judge Ken Bailey told us he occasionally holds victims in contempt of court too.
It's not easy just to say, oh yes, they're going to go to jail for 24 hours or 48 hours. I mean, those are decisions that I struggle with, and I'm confident other judges struggle with also.
Subpoenas clearly remind victims in black and white that if they fail to show up to court, they could face time behind bars. But advocates say many of these victims have good reason. They're afraid it could put them in even more danger.
It's a terrible choice. Their safety or go to jail. And that is not a position you want to put any victim of crime in.
It's especially concerning to Kathy Walsh, considering Tennessee already ranks 6th in the nation for the number of women killed every year by men. Did it surprise you to know this is happening to this extent?
Absolutely. It surprises me to know that this is happening anywhere.
Walsh, a domestic violence survivor, is the executive director of the Tennessee Coalition to End Domestic and Sexual Violence. She says the more the court system jails abusers, the less victims will want to call 911 in an emergency.
So if you have a thorough investigation from law enforcement, if they have evidence, if they have pictures, if they talk to other folks on the scene, there's no reason that you can't prosecute this case without a victim.
In some ways, a domestic violence case is harder to prove than a murder case.
Sullivan County District Attorney Barry Staubis says it's not that simple.
It's a slap, it's a hit, it's in a room, it's by themselves, and they leave.
Staubis says there are rarely witnesses, and the pictures of the victim's injuries or a victim's statement to police aren't admissible unless the victim is in court to talk about them.
You have to have in almost every case the victim to come forward and say, I'm the victim. He hit me, he did it, I reported it, and it wasn't self-defense and it wasn't accidental. He meant to do it to me.
Is there not another way to prosecute a case without putting these women in this vulnerable situation?
I don't know of any way under the current laws and under the constitutional restraints that we have that protect defendants.
Among them, a person's constitutional right to face and cross-examine their accuser in court.
If they feel that testifying is going to put them in danger, we do everything we can to prevent that from being something that they have to go through.
In addition to that situation, Emily Hutchins says if a victim's failure to appear is the result of a transportation issue or a mix-up with the date, she asks the judge to not issue an arrest warrant. Hutchins prosecutes Sullivan County's domestic violence cases in Bristol, where she says 6 victims went to jail in the last year.
I always try to take into account what they want out of these cases, what would make them feel safe and make them feel that justice is being served. But at the end of the day, these are extremely serious crimes.
Of those 6 Sullivan County cases, she says one woman who spent 2 days in jail actually came around after the judge held her in contempt, which led to her abuser going to jail too.
She indicated that now she knew that it was the best thing for her to come into court to hold him accountable because her not coming to court showed him that she was not going to hold him accountable.
Back in Greene County,
they're just difficult cases all the way around for everyone involved.
Judge Bailey has at times witnessed positive results too, but he says his decision to jail victims has also kept him up at night.
I've been concerned that victim is going to endure further abuse after the case has been heard in court.
What a horrible situation.
It is a horrible situation, and it bothers me.
All right, so what's the solution? The judge thinks more victim witness coordinators in court can help the victims better understand their role in the case and how the legal system can help them. He says better counseling can also ultimately help them get out of their current situation. Josh?
It seems like, Nate, training is needs to at least be a huge component of this, especially for police, right?
Well, that's what the Tennessee Coalition to End Domestic Violence and Sexual Violence has to say about it. They say that they've trained more than 10,000 police officers across the state of Tennessee, knowing that victims of domestic violence may be reluctant. The executive director, who you heard from our story, says the practice of jailing victims goes against that training and what they're trying to accomplish.
Nate Morabito. Nate, thank you very much. Sarah?